Hi everyone. Listen, um, after about 3 years of masking, my neurodivergent qualities are coming out a little bit. I'm starting to think out loud a bit more. Maybe it's because of the gang stalking. I mean, they have been firing weapons on my brain, to try to elicit some kind of behavioral change. But I need to get this out of me because even though it's a rant, I feel like there's a lot of people that need to hear this right now. And if I'm preaching to the choir, good. Because the last people that I want engaging in anything that I'm about to say right now are people who are just willfully out of touch with reality. Now, why am I so angry? Why am I so pissed off? Well, I came off watching a video that was specifically about our community and the way that we relate to one another. And it was talking about how basically, it's also talking about misogyny as well, not just race. It was like men hating women and stuff like that. But after watching a video talking about misogynoir and stuff like that, I came away not being angry with people of my community. I'm not angry with us. I came away thinking, okay, yeah, the way we treat each other is fucked up. But then I think about the effects of, not even just the effects of slavery, the effects of redlining, the effects of socioeconomic injustice, the effects of being demonized in every form of culture, and not even just Western culture, but culture in other countries as well. I'm thinking about the ongoing, systemic, not systemic, but it's like a controlled demolition of people with African features. It's like a controlled demolition. And it's like, when all these things are combined, the fact that we have the resilience to even do what we do is absolutely remarkable. A lot of people like to say that we play the victim card, and I think unfortunately, even black people swallow that Kool-Aid. But I have to look at it realistically, like not just from the perspective of my own emotions, but I have to look at the situation realistically. I look at, just in my community in Brighton, the resilience of people who look like me, I'm like, in comparison to everybody else, like among the community that I frequent, I'm literally the bum of the community. The amount of highly qualified, highly educated, extremely talented, resourceful, intelligent, incredible people that I have met in my time since being here, it has served as such a fucking wake-up call as to how resilient we truly are as a people. I feel like the rest of the world should learn lessons on resilience from us, instead of just trying to turn around and pay us to either be victims or villains. By the way, pick one, right? It just makes me realize how resilient we are in the face of continuing socioeconomic injustice, continuing, then the socioeconomic justice, it doesn't just affect jobs. It affects healthcare. It affects infant mortality. It affects so many things beneath the surface that like people are just completely unaware of. If there are lower expectancy rates in our communities in comparison to other communities, it didn't just spring up out of thin air. Even the violence that is often used to demonize us, the violence that takes place in poorer communities especially, even that was not engineered by us. Even that was not put there by us. Like, we have literally been on the receiving end of so much. And that's what makes me angry. Like, everything that we do to each other, everything that we do to ourselves, we must, as grown adults, take responsibility for that. I'm not saying that we shouldn't. But what I'm tired of is people not being in touch with reality. How the fuck are you going to engage in a continuous controlled demolition against one race of people and then turn around in the same breath and say that that race is the one, are the ones responsible for it? That's not how this works. That's not the way this works. The effects of slavery has literally had effects on, you know, our familial structures. And it's not just slavery, it's also what happened after slavery, the redlining, the economic disadvantages that are still present today. And on top of that, a lot of TIs don't like talking about, you know, black issues. I don't give a fuck. Take that over there. I'm talking about black people, right? When it comes to the targeted community, right? I don't know if black people are hit first and hardest, but I do know that when something happens to us, we don't get the same healthcare, we don't get the same level of attention as our white or even brown counterparts. And that's a double-edged sword, because on the one hand, if we have children, social services are less likely to come visit us or ask us questions. But at the same time, if we are hurt with electronic weapons, like, I'll give you an example, right? When I was at my dad's house, I was hit with electronic weapons in the heart right here when I fell out with a friend of mine, right? And I went to the hospital to have it investigated. And this person turned around and told me that it was typical of my race. I'm sorry, but since when is myocarditis typical of my race? And she called it racing heart syndrome. So looking back, I don't even think she was a real nurse, but she called it speeding heart syndrome, and she said it was typical of my race. I'm thinking, typical of your race? How is that even possible? How is it possible that in our genetics we could have speeding heart syndrome? Like, let's just say this, for argument's sake, this is true. How would that even come to pass without the past trauma that is literally carried through in our DNA from those who have survived the African Holocaust? It has affected our families. It has affected the way that we treat each other. It's affected the way that we have sex even. It's affected literally every aspect of our lives. And the rest of the world is sitting there watching us saying, oh, you're just playing victim. You're just playing victim. You have no idea of the amount of shit that this world has left behind. Not only for our community, but for the world in general. The amount of extinction level events in nature. All because white supremacists want to be the last race standing. All this radiation, the dwindling of natural resources, all because white supremacists only want white people on the planet. Our world is dying. Our ecosystem is dying. The human race is dying. There are people who are sick, dying of cancer. There are children dying of cancer out here. And all of these developments, all of it, is because of eugenics. All of it. Now, there are demons in every single race of humanity. Black, white, brown, doesn't matter. There are cunts in every single fucking race, right? But the amount of things that people complain about when it comes to us, gang culture, all of that shit is child's play in comparison to the nuclear weapons that have been developed, in comparison to the microwave weapons that are being used, in comparison to the voice of God, thermobaric bombs being dropped on God knows how many people. Look at Israel versus Palestine. Do you see any black people in that struggle? Better yet, do you see any black people being the ones that are slaughtering everyone else? Come on now. Look at Russia versus Ukraine. What's going on there? Do you see a black face among them? And then compare that to somewhere like Sudan, where the black population are still being persecuted, as far as I know, by the Janjaweed, who are Arab. So what exactly could we do to one another, or could we do to ourselves, that could possibly compare with the destruction that has been left by people who are not us? Please explain that to me. Now, I'm not saying that to say that we're better or we're different. The consciousness of every single person on this planet, black, white, and brown, has almost directly contributed to what's going on in the world today. So I'm not about to sit here and be like, oh, we're angels or we don't do anything wrong. But every single thing that's going on right now is because of eugenics. And people have the nerve to turn around and treat us as subhuman, as if we're the ones who have caused extinction level events just because we didn't want other races of people to be here. Like, come the fuck on now. Come on now. That's ridiculous. So it's weird. Like, the one time where I should be holding the people closest to me accountable, because, you know, there has been a lot of toxicity in my community. I'm the first one to say that. But then I have to think about all the contributing factors to that toxicity. And then I have to kind of compare and contrast to what's going on now. Women are still underpaid. And black and brown people, especially black people, are more underpaid still. So, like, and it's not even just the pay. That's like small potatoes in comparison to the global plundering of resources and setting the people who's, you know, in the country who has those riches, in the countries who have those riches, setting the people up against one another to kill each other. Remember Rwanda? I keep bringing up Rwanda, right? There was an operation called Operation Crimson Mist. And I'm not talking about everything that happened here. I'm not going to say it all, because all the details were uploaded online and unfortunately it was taken down. But Operation Crimson Mist was the use of extremely low frequencies to cause violence globally. And the people with the most advanced weaponry of this nature are Israel, the UK, the US, Russia, China, and other countries belonging to the Five Eyes like Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. And the UN, which had Nazi scientists working for them anyways, they were also partially responsible for what was going on in Rwanda. Like I'm saying, all these developments and the amount of birds and, you know, the amount of different species of creature that have become extinct just in this country alone, it would absolutely stagger you. All of that through microwave radiation. Microwave radiation. Because they want one race of people to be left standing at the end of it all. That's what all of this is for. The amount of damage it has done to this planet. The havoc that it's wreaked. And I'm supposed to sit here and be like, oh, we're always playing victim. No. Like, no. Oh my God. Like, when you really think about it objectively, anybody who is educated on the systemic enslavement of literally everyone on the planet, because everybody's been enslaved at one point. If you look at the history of enslavement and what that has led to, and the damage that it has left on the planet as a consequence, pollution, the opening up of the ozone layer, endless radiation, the trees are dying out, which means people are less able to breathe than normal. Like, all of these developments happened as a result of eugenics. In fact, what do we think Havana syndrome is? Think about the amount of people that have died from heart attacks, high profile people that have died from heart attacks. They happen so quickly in between people, you would think it was happening en masse. Look at the amount of heart attacks that have happened. Between 2017 and 2018, there were 4 high-profile suicides in 2 years. That's a problem. And all of this is due to eugenics. All of this is about mind control. All of this is about population control. Eugenics, all of it. All of it. Eugenics, racism has literally fucked this world completely up, and it's only going to get worse. And I, as a black person, I'm supposed to fight with people who don't want me here, who would rather live on a ball of ash and have nothing so long as they get to stay on this planet. You can keep it. You can keep it. I'm not making much sense because, you know, when weapons have been fired at my head, I'm not very good at using my words. But yeah. Nah, man. The amount of destruction that has been wreaking havoc on this world, and like, we ain't even touched the surface, baby. And people have the nerve to call us perpetual victims. Who the fuck are human beings? Seriously. Every single racial slur, and I look at it now and it's wild. It just gives me a new perspective on the racial slurs that are being used, on the stereotypes that are associated with us, on things that are said about us, by us and other people. Like, it just gives me a whole new perspective on this world's view of us. It gives me a whole new perspective of it now. But again, the cuntishness of the world, it's not just white people. It's the cuntishness of everyone, white, black, brown. It's this desire to stick with the winning side that's led us down this road. When the winning side usually means the more violent people. That's who we stand behind. That's who we protect. En masse. We protect the violent ones. We protect the narcissists. We protect the sociopaths. We protect the psychopaths. We don't protect the people who really, really mean the world good. So it's the cuntishness of everybody that left us here. But as for the cause of why this world is so bad, as why cost of living is going up, people are being frozen and starving to death, racism, eugenics, all of it. And I never thought I would say that. That's what makes me so angry. So when I hear somebody who isn't black talking about taking a mile in their shoes, like, shut the fuck up. I don't want to hear. I don't want to take a mile in shoes that ignorant or shoes that fucking ugly and wrong-sided. I don't. I'm sorry. I don't want to hear take a mile in my shoes. I don't want to hear you're just a victim. I don't want to hear none of that shit. Because from time, our oppression is not only causing, you know, the deaths and destructions of millions of black bodies, you know, not even just that, but it's causing the destruction of the world as a whole. You can't say shit to me. And on top of that, there's the environmental racism that we've got to get into. That's why so many cities and places with black people, where black people are populated, that's why so many of them are run down. Because when there's toxic waste or there's waste to be dumped, like, our communities are usually the places where they're dumped most. And also funding is increasingly taken out of our communities and put into wealthier ones. Wealthier, whiter ones. And it's all of this behavior has led to nature becoming increasingly rare. And rarity and beauty is where the money is. So as long as they keep natural resources rare, they can keep the rest of us fighting over it. So yeah, racism. The cause is racism. The cause is racism, and globally us being cunts to one another. That's what's caused all of this. Because we give, you know, most of the resources over to people with antisocial personality disorders who display the most violence, physically, psychologically, or mentally. Well, psychologically and mentally are the same thing, but that's what this rant was about. I'm so angry. And the worst part about all this is, the worst part about all of this is that even now, when you bring up the cuntishness of all of us, how we're obsessed with getting behind the winner and how that's led to the destruction of our planet, or when we talk about how racism, sexism, hell, even queerphobia is responsible for the destruction of nature as a whole, the only thing that people who feel criticized can think about after all of that is their fucking feelings. And people say we're the victims. Baby, you can keep it. I'm telling you. I'm going to live life, like I said before, as much as I can, have as much enjoyment as I can, but I ain't fighting to be on, I'm not fighting to be on a burning rock where people continuously sacrifice their morals for comfort. Fuck that. Dang. But anyway, I gotta go. I think I've said it all. I just needed to get that off my chest. You know, when I look back at this video, I know some of my sentences are going to be... What I notice is that when I've had directed energy weapons fired at my head for a continuous amount of time, and they've been doing that every day, like low level, doing that every day to kind of erode at my memory and erode at my speech and erode at my coordination. I notice that when that happens and I speak sentences, like the sentences are not finished, some of them. So I do notice that. I do notice that some of my sentences are not finished. And when I look back at this video, yeah. But I hope my fellow TIs are okay, and I just needed to get that out. Again, I'm just preaching to the choir. I am not interested. If you disagree, I'm not interested. I'm preaching to the choir here. They can comment, not you. Bye.